What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on some recent comments that Nick Wright made about LeBron James and LeBron James going back to join the Cleveland Cavaliers. And for some reason, Nick Wright thinks that LeBron James is the missing piece for the Cleveland Cavaliers to help them, to go further in the playoffs. I think they just lost to the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers just ran them out of there. So he thinks now that a 41-year-old, 42-year-old LeBron James is what they're going to need to get him through the playoffs and get him to the championship next year. In his 23rd year. And so it just, to me, it just seems like Nick Wright he's going to go down with that LeBron James ship, because as you probably know, Michael Jordan is coming back next year to NBC to do some commentating and probably give some interviews and stuff like that too, right? And so a lot of these so-called LeBron James people who promote LeBron James as being a GOAT, Nick Wright being one of them, they're going to start getting a whole lot of pushback, a lot more pushback. And I recently did a video, Shannon Sharp, and it seems like Shannon Sharp is already backpedaling on his, who he think the GOAT is. Like he on Nightcap, he gave Michael Jordan just so much praise. And spoke about how he thought, Michael Jordan levitated and he never been around somebody with that type of aura. He never praised LeBron James like that, right? And he never talked about LeBron James in such glowing fashion as he just spoke about Michael Jordan. But LeBron James, he was, for years, he was talking about how LeBron James was the GOAT. So now Nick Wright is talking about LeBron James, like I said, should go to Cleveland Cavaliers. And him and the conversation was between him and what's the guy named Broussard. Broussard kind of said something. He said something too on it that I might get into a little bit. That I disagreed. But Nick Wright just take the case, man. So I'm a play this audio that Nick Wright, of Nick Wright on I think it's First Things First. And then I'm going to make some comments about what Nick Wright just said in relation to LeBron James.
I want to talk about Cleveland for a second. Because you can't run it back. You can't expect, it to be different. You do have right now a massive opening in the Eastern Conference because Giannis might be on the move. And Tatum, sadly, we now know what we feared yesterday, which is torn Achilles, which means probably means next year's gone. And
even if New York were even to win the championship, nobody's looking at them like, well, we can't beat them.
Right, and I give New York a ton of credit, but it's still, one team you're talking about in the East as opposed to 10 in the West.
Absolutely.
And their starting small forward, much like their previous starting small forward when they were down 3-1, sent a group text along the lines of, if you don't think we can do it, don't get on the plane. Now, the previous small forward responded to that by himself having the greatest 3-game stretch in the history of the league. This small forward responded to it by going 0 for 9 and scoring 0 points. Sorry, Max Strus. It is what it is.
Thought was right.
If you were sexually abused by an LDS.
My fault. Let me hit the skip button.
All right. To which I say this. Just go home, Bron.
I mean, it's interesting.
It's from the area. It's year 23. No one can say he's front running. They haven't, in the entirety that the Cavs have existed, they've never been past round 2, except for when he's been there and they've lived in the finals. There was a lot of, chatter this year. Is this the best Cavs team ever? Is this the most fun Cavs season ever? How fun is it now? How fun was, and by the way, it happened like this. They won their first round series by more points than any team in the history of the league.
They looked like they were going to win the East.
And Donovan, who made there you go, who made, I think, even in defeat, a compelling club superstar case, is now on this very weird streak of every year he's been in the league, he's been in the playoffs, and every year it's ended before the conference finals. It can only happen if Bron is willing to play for close to nothing. But man,
Cleveland can't even trade.
No,
they can't aggregate.
No, they're so it would really just have to be him being like, you know what? I did my job in LA. I brought them a championship and helped them get the player that they then use to get the next, the next iteration of Laker basketball. No one can say I gave them 7 years, more than I think anyone realistically expected. And I think as great as Luka is, I think Bron has a better chance of winning a championship playing with the Cavs. Not because the Cavs would necessarily be better, but because they would have to win 2 tough rounds in the playoffs, the conference finals and the NBA finals. And the Lakers, the West is just so deep and so hard.
Look, if LeBron went back there, I don't see this happening. I don't see LeBron going for the minimum. I don't see him leaving the Lakers. But if it did, and they didn't have to lose Mobley, if the Cavs could aggregate players and trade, say, Garland and Mobley for LeBron, I wouldn't do that.
No,
I would not do that.
No, because he's
the
41.
Lakers, I would do that.
Of course.
That'd be great.
No, but he's 40. I'm talking about LeBron opting out and signing there.
They would be easily, to me, the favorite in the East.
Yeah.
Easily.
Okay, so you heard what Chris Broussard said at the end, right? He said that if LeBron James was to go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, that they would be easily the favorite in the East. And so, to me, it don't make sense. It really don't make sense because you have LeBron James going to be going on year number 23. And him and Luka couldn't get past the first round. And Luka is, a lot, in my opinion, or a lot of people would think that Luka is a better player than Donovan Mitchell. So how can you expect LeBron James and Donovan Mitchell to just run through the East when him and Luka couldn't even get through the first round? They only had, they got beat in 5. That's number one. So Chris Broussard playing into that nonsense that Nick Wright was talking, it just was crazy. And so, like I said, I just think it's crazy. Number one, would Cleveland even want LeBron James back at this point in his career? He already left him 2 times, and for LeBron James to go back to Cleveland, it's more like LeBron James need the Cavaliers more than the Cavaliers need LeBron James. And with that owner who really don't have a great relationship with LeBron James, he may not even go for that, for LeBron James coming back there, because he knows that LeBron James need him. And so he might not even sign off on that. I don't think the fans really care about if LeBron come back there or not. So I think that was a goofy argument. And another thing, like Nick Wright said, that LeBron James is not front running. So if he's not front running, then why don't he just go somewhere else and make them better, or stay with the Lakers and make them better, make another run at it with the Lakers? So he is front running. For him to go to a team like Indiana and they're up and coming team, young players, better players than what the Lakers have, more, a better defense. I think Donovan, excellent. If he could stay healthy, Donovan Mitchell's an excellent player. He plays good defense also. And he plays, he's an excellent scorer. So to me, there's more talent on the Cavaliers than there is on the, even with Luka, there's more talent, like I said, especially from a defensive standpoint. So he would be front running. And if he get there and they have any kind of success, which I think, I don't think they would, not with a 40, with LeBron James being in his 23rd year, I don't think they have any kind of success. But I hope he do. I hope they are goofy enough to let him go there. Just because every move is seen, in my opinion, it just seems like every move that LeBron James make, just it just makes him look more and more like, like it just throws more water on that so-called GOAT debate, right? So I don't, I don't see him going there. Let me see. And so Nick Wright also said that LeBron James did his job in LA. He set he set Luka up for the future, and he gave them a good 7 years. His Statistically, LeBron James in the playoffs was like 2-12. Um, while he was there, that 7 years, he was 2-12. I don't know how he see that as being great. So I just think that it's looking like Nick Wright is going to go down with that ship. He must really be on that payroll, that clutch management payroll. He got to be, because I thought I thought that since Shannon Sharp was starting to change his tune about who's the GOAT, that Nick Wright will be getting ready to look like he's going to bail off that ship. But it don't look like like Nick Wright is going to ride it out to the end. He don't care about his credibility, and maybe he don't think that like his credibility is going to be shot when it comes to LeBron James and that GOAT conversation. But I don't know. I think LeBron James, in my opinion, he should stay in LA. Because I don't see any of these young teams really needing him. I don't see him being able to help any of these young teams. And he'll go there, and like I said, if they have any kind of success, he'll take the credit for that. And if they don't, if they fall short, then they'll be, somebody else to take the blame. But I think Nick Wright, his commentary on LeBron James going to the Cavaliers, and that he would help the Cavaliers, I just think that that's goofy. It just don't make any sense to me. And so that's my take on it. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.